Success doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It moves in silence, in rhythm, in response to those bold enough to stop waiting and start accelerating. You don't need more time. You need more truth. Because time, by itself, guarantees nothing. Time in the hands of the undisciplined is a graveyard. But time in the hands of the focused, that's where legacies are born. You've been lied to. You've been told success is about luck, about connections, about being in the right place at the right time. But here's the truth. Nobody wants to say out loud, success belongs to the aligned. It belongs to the one who knows how to think, how to move, how to live at a higher level of discipline, intention, and urgency than the rest. It doesn't take decades. It takes decisions. Success isn't delayed because the world is unfair. It's delayed because most people never find the courage to move with fire. So, if you want to move faster than others, if you want to accelerate past the noise, past the excuses, past the paralysis of overthinking, then you must live by a different code. Not a code of comfort, but a code of command. Because acceleration is not about doing more, it's about being more. And the first golden rule is this. 1. Starve your distractions. Feed your focus. Distraction is the silent thief of dreams. You don't lose momentum in one loud explosion. You lose it in quiet scrolls. You lose it every time you check your phone without purpose. You lose it in shallow conversations, in meaningless multitasking, in giving your best hours to things that do nothing to push you forward. Your attention is your currency. Your energy is your investment. And most people are going bankrupt before the sun sets because they give their prime attention to junk food for the mind. But if you want to move faster than others, you have to get violent with your focus. You have to build an environment so tight, so bulletproof, that distraction can't breathe around you. No, it's not easy. But easy is for the average. And average is already crowded. The elite, they move in silence. They move in structure. They move with intentionality so sharp it cuts through noise like a blade. If you're serious about success, you stop negotiating with distraction. You cut it off at the root. Because the mind, like a lion, only grows dangerous when it's trained. Untrained, it wanders. Trained, it dominates. And when you feed your focus, when you give your best hours to your deepest priorities, you create momentum that most people never experience. They crawl, you fly, they consume, you create, and that difference, it compounds daily until one day you look up and realize you didn't just beat the competition, you left the orbit. 2, do it before you feel ready. Readiness is a myth. It's the story we tell ourselves to justify hesitation. But success doesn't wait for readiness. It waits for movement. Every moment you spend preparing without acting is another moment you're getting left behind by someone with less talent but more courage. You think you need more research, more planning, more validation. But what you really need is this, to move while it's messy. The bridge between dreams and execution is not clarity. It's courage. Because the truth is, clarity comes through movement, not before it. You don't figure it all out in your head. You figure it out in the fire. And when you move, when you take the first step before you feel qualified, you begin to separate yourself from 99% of people who are still thinking about it. Action is the great accelerator. It compresses time. It multiplies learning. It builds confidence. Because every time you take action when you don't feel ready, you build proof. Proof that you are capable. Proof that you are resourceful. Proof that you do not need perfect conditions to produce world-class results. Success doesn't go to the most prepared. It goes to the most willing. Willing to leap. Willing to fail forward. Willing to become unstoppable through exposure, not comfort. So stop waiting for the perfect time. Stop collecting tools and start building something. Because the ones who move first, they win first. 3, don't speak goals. Build systems. You've heard it said, set goals. Speak them into existence. But that's only half the truth. Because goals without systems are just wishes wearing a suit. The real builders don't get addicted to the destination, they marry the process. They don't chase motivation. They install mechanics. They don't talk about it. They architect it. Because a system doesn't care how you feel. A system doesn't need motivation. A system just works day after day, even when your emotions don't. That's how acceleration happens. Not in random bursts, but in repetition with refinement. The world doesn't reward the person who sets the biggest goals. It rewards the person who has the tightest systems. Systems for focus, systems for action, systems for recovery, learning, growth, and execution. So if you want to move faster, stop asking, what do I want? Start asking, what's the system I'm building every day that guarantees my result? That shift alone can buy you back years, because now your success isn't based on willpower. It's based on design. And when you design it right, you move past others like they're frozen in time. You're not relying on energy. You're not hoping for flow. You are living like a machine built for mastery. And mastery always moves faster than motivation. 4, protect your environment like a king protects his throne. Your environment is not neutral. It is either elevating you or eroding you. The conversations around you, the spaces you work in, the people you give your energy to, these are not background noise. They are the soil of your success. And you can't plant greatness in toxic ground. You can't build legacy with people who laugh at discipline, mock ambition, and live in cycles of blame. You have to curate your environment like your life depends on it, because it does. You have to build a world around you where your goals are normal, not fantasy, where your growth is expected, not inspiring, where your excellence is challenged, not merely celebrated, because acceleration requires alignment. And if your environment isn't aligned with your vision, it will always slow you down. Most people lose speed, not because of lack of talent, but because they're dragging dead weight disguised as friends, habits, and comfort zones. But you know better now. You don't adapt to the room. You upgrade the room, or you leave it, because you weren't born to survive in mediocrity. You were born to lead in mastery. And leaders don't tolerate environments that sabotage their elevation. They build castles of clarity and guard them like kings. Because a king who doesn't guard his throne invites betrayal. And betrayal, in the world of success, rarely comes as a sword, it comes as a slow leak. It's the passive friend who questions your grind with a smirk. The well-meaning colleague who tells you to chill, it's not that serious. The outdated routine that once helped, but now holds you back. You think you can handle it. But erosion doesn't feel like destruction, it feels like comfort. And comfort kills kings. So you protect your environment. You become ruthless with what gets your energy. Because your energy is sacred. Your clarity is rare. Your time is irreplaceable. So you build an empire in your schedule, in your workspace, in your mind. You fill it with voices that sharpen you, with tools that challenge you, with silence that strengthens you. And when you walk into that space, physical or mental, you step into a world where success isn't a maybe, it's a math. That's the difference. The world doesn't move for those who kind of want it. It moves for those who have engineered inevitability. And that engineering, it starts with your environment. Now let's go deeper. 5, delay gratification. Multiply rewards. Speed isn't about rushing. Speed is about removing waste. You don't move faster by forcing more into your day. You move faster by refusing to trade long-term gain for short-term thrill. The weak chase dopamine. The wise delay it. The weak crave applause. The wise crave compound. You want to accelerate past everyone else? Then train yourself to love the unseen effort, to worship the boring repetition that builds separation, to become obsessed with delayed gratification, because success doesn't belong to those who start strong. It belongs to those who last longer, to those who can say no to the party, the binge, the scroll, the hit of cheap reward because they know something greater is being built. Delayed gratification is not just a habit, it is a superpower. The ability to smile in silence while others get applause for doing less. The ability to grind through day 63 with the same focus you had on day 1. The ability to hold the line when the whole world is running toward distraction. Because if you keep planting, you will harvest. If you keep showing up, you will compound. If you keep building with precision, the reward will not just be success, it will be freedom. Freedom from the trap of chasing every trend. Freedom from the addiction to applause. Freedom from the prison of comfort that looks like peace, but is really stagnation. Delayed gratification is where maturity lives. And maturity is where acceleration begins. Because when you're not chasing feelings, you're focused on foundations. And foundations, they multiply everything. 6, master your identity. The game changes. When you do, this is the final rule. The golden rule that controls all the others. Because until you change who you believe you are, nothing you do will stick. Your identity is the thermostat of your life. You may hustle, you may surge, but if your internal setting is set to self-doubt, to average, to good enough, then life will pull you back. It always does. We never outperform our identity. We only mirror it. So the greatest acceleration hack isn't external, it's internal. It's rewriting the story you've told yourself for years. The story that says you're not enough. The story that says people like you don't rise that high. The story that says you're too late, too flawed, too far behind. Burn it. Burn the identity that was built in fear. Burn the identity that was shaped by failure. Burn the identity that came from people who couldn't see your vision, and build a new one. A version of you who doesn't wait. A version of you who executes with certainty. A version of you who walks into every room knowing they belong not because they were chosen, but because they chose themselves. This isn't about ego. This is about alignment. You don't fake this. You forge it every morning in the mirror, every evening in your reflection, every hour in your habits. Because when your identity locks in, your habits follow. And when your habits follow, your results compound. And when your results compound, the world has no choice but to respond. You don't become successful by chasing strategies alone. You become successful when you become the person who can no longer live any other way. The person who doesn't hope to rise, the person who expects it, who lives it, who breathes it, who no longer asks, will I succeed? But declares, how far can I take this now that I've decided who I am? That is the question now. That is the only question. Not if you'll make it. You're already moving. The only question is, how fast? And that's entirely up to you. Because once you've aligned your identity with your destiny, acceleration isn't a dream, it's a law. You walk into your day not wondering what might happen. You walk in deciding what must happen. You don't hope for breakthroughs, you generate them. You don't need reminders. You are the reminder. And this is where most people fall off. Because building identity isn't glamorous. It's not loud. It's quiet rewiring. It's saying no when no one would blame you for saying yes. It's waking up early when no one would judge you for sleeping in. It's showing up in full force when your body is screaming for comfort and your mind is begging for ease. But that's where the winners are made. That's where time bends in your favor. That's where you compress years into months and months into moments that change everything. You stop operating by time and start operating by intensity. Because here's the secret no one tells you. It doesn't take years to become great. It takes alignment. It doesn't take more effort. It takes deeper execution. It doesn't take more noise. It takes more clarity. And when you live with this level of intention, every day becomes a multiplier. Every minute becomes fuel. Every decision becomes a statement. I don't just want it, I'm built for it. I don't just dream it, I execute it. I don't just accelerate, I outpace, outlast, outwork, and outgrow everything in my way. And when the world finally turns to look, when they finally ask how you move so fast, how you passed them while they were still planning, how you rose while they were still thinking about rising, you won't say much. You won't need to. Because your life will say it all. Your habits will scream it. Your results will echo it. Your presence will confirm it. That you lived by a different code. The code of the accelerated. The code of the focused, the aligned, the builders who don't wait for conditions, they create momentum out of nothing. You became one of the few who didn't just hope for more. You became one of the few who moved like it was already yours. And in doing so, you stepped into the rare air of those who rise faster, stay longer, and build louder than the world ever expected. You stepped into the arena not just with hunger, but with honor. Not just with ambition, but with accuracy. And now the race isn't between you and them. It's between you and the highest version of you. And that's a race you're ready to win. Because when the race becomes internal, the victory becomes inevitable. You're no longer chasing the world, you're chasing your own edge. And that edge, it sharpens not with hype, but with honesty. The honesty to admit when you're off. The honesty to adjust without shame. The honesty to recognize that acceleration doesn't come from perfection, it comes from alignment. Again and again and again. You don't need to be flawless. You need to be faithful to the path, to the process, to the person you are becoming through the fire of relentless execution. Because real acceleration is about consistency in the invisible. It's the days when no one's watching and you still show up. It's the nights when doubt is loud, but you still deliver. It's the discipline to repeat with intensity until mastery becomes your default. This is how the great ones move. Not always faster, but always deeper. Not always louder, but always more locked in. Not always seen, but always sovereign. Because when your life is built on principle, not performance, when it's built on purpose, not popularity, when it's built on design, not drama, you become unshakable. And this is the final truth. Success doesn't belong to the most gifted. It belongs to the most governed by vision, governed by habits, governed by an identity forged in fire, committed in quiet, proven in the darkness, long before the world saw the light. So, yes, accelerate, but not by adding more chaos. Accelerate by becoming more clear, more conscious, more committed to living a life that speaks before you ever open your mouth. That shows before you ever share. That moves before you ever motivate. Because the ones who move fastest are the ones who no longer argue with doubt. They walk through it. They don't ask, can I do it? They ask, who else is willing to do what I'm doing right now? And the answer, most days, no one. That's your advantage. That's your truth. That's your edge. So go, move, build with urgency, live with alignment, and let the world feel the tremble of someone who no longer needs permission to win. You're not waiting for the future. You're not begging for the break. You're not hoping for a shortcut, because you are already moving in a direction most people will never dare to walk. The path of accelerated success is not for everyone, but it is for you. Because now, you don't just know the rules, you live them. And when you live the rules, you become the rule. You become the proof. You become the story that disrupts every excuse, dismantles every limitation, and disarms every skeptic who thought greatness was reserved for the lucky, the chosen, the connected. Because you didn't wait to be chosen. You chose yourself. You didn't wait for the green light. You became the signal. You didn't wait for perfect timing. You made now the moment. And what happens next? The acceleration becomes natural, not because the world slowed down, but because you sped up in a way that no longer needs force, just flow. Flow built from systems. Flow built from identity. Flow built from the decision to build daily, not occasionally. Because the builder always beats the browser. The one in motion always surpasses the one in maintenance mode. And you are not in maintenance. You are in momentum. You are not preserving a brand. You are expanding a legacy. And the deeper you go into this way of life, the more you realize you were never meant to crawl. You were never meant to compete for scraps. You were never meant to ask, am I good enough? You were meant to create waves. You were meant to build empires in places others saw deserts. You were meant to show the world what happens when someone stops flirting with success and marries it. So burn this into your bones. No one will outlast the person who moves with meaning. No one will catch the one who acts with alignment. And no one can stop the one who doesn't just chase greatness, but embodies it. That's what you've done here. You've not only learned the 6 golden rules, you've become them. You starve distraction. You protect your focus. You move before you're ready, and clarity follows. You don't fantasize. You build systems. You guard your environment like your soul lives in it. You delay the cheap win for the compound reward. And above all, you master your identity. Because you know, success doesn't come to the person who wants it the most. It comes to the person who refuses to live without it. The one who walks in alignment until the world must respond. That is you now. You are not a spectator. You are the signal. You are not in pursuit. You are in possession of a mindset, a movement, a mission that makes time collapse, opportunity chase you, and the impossible kneel. This is not hype. This is not a high. This is what happens when a person decides to stop stalling and start accelerating. And from this day forward, you never move the same way again. You move faster. You move sharper. You move with fire behind your focus and foundation beneath your feet. You don't just live by the rules. You are living proof that when you embody them, you rise faster, you build stronger, you finish louder, and nothing can stop you now. Because once you've reached this level, the concept of impossible becomes irrelevant. You've proven through sweat, silence, and savage commitment that the only true limitation is hesitation. You don't wait to be motivated, you move regardless. You don't need applause, you're self-fed. You don't need the world to validate your journey. You've already validated yourself through the consistency of your execution. This is not just acceleration. This is ascension. A rise so real, so raw, so deeply earned that even your past can't recognize you. And why should it? You've rewritten everything. The narrative, the identity, the pattern. You've gone from hope to hunger, from wish to weapon. You've evolved from talking about the next level to becoming it. And here's what most will never understand. You didn't find a secret. You didn't stumble on a shortcut. You simply stopped betraying your potential. That's the key. You stopped feeding fear and started feeding focus. You stopped needing others to believe in you and started becoming someone you believe in. You stopped waiting to feel powerful and started acting like power lives in your bones, because it does. And from that power, you now build with urgency, with ownership, with the knowledge that you're not just living life, you're leading it. Others will notice. They'll see the difference in your eyes, in how you walk, in how you speak, in how you move through challenge with unshakable clarity. They'll ask what changed. They'll want to know your trick, your hack, your secret weapon. And all you'll say is this: I stopped living by default. I started living by decision, and I never looked back. Because the truth is, once you live by these golden rules, you don't return to normal. You don't slide back into survival mode. You don't wait for the world to give you permission. You are the permission. You are the standard. You are the one who moves differently, not because it's trendy, but because it's true. And from this place, from this alignment, this acceleration, this new altitude, nothing is the same. Everything changes because you changed, not on the surface, but at the root. And from that root, greatness grows silently, powerfully, daily, until your life becomes the echo of a decision you made long ago. To stop hoping, to stop hesitating, to stop hiding behind preparation, and to move with conviction, speed, and strategy into everything you were born to build. And now, you move forever, faster than the crowd, deeper than the noise, wiser than your past, stronger than your fears, and so clear in your purpose, so aligned in your identity, that the world has no choice but to accelerate around you. That's the code. That's the rhythm. That's the truth of the few who rise before the rest even start. And if anyone asks what it takes to rise that fast, just tell them this: I lived by 6 golden rules and I never broke them. And the result? I didn't just succeed faster than others. I became someone they could never catch. Because when you become someone they can't catch, the race becomes irrelevant. You don't look left. You don't look right. You don't look back. You are too far ahead in mindset, in movement, in meaning. You are no longer part of the game. You changed the game. And the game now runs on your rules, your standard, your rhythm of excellence. Because while others still ask for permission to begin, you're already on chapter 10 writing results, rewriting norms, redefining what it means to rise with relentless intent. You have broken orbit. There is no gravity left from your past to pull you down. No chain of fear left to bind your momentum. No echo of smallness that can survive in the fire of your current identity. You're no longer a product of your past. You are now a pattern breaker, a first of your kind blueprint, an outlier with systemized focus, wild clarity, and sacred consistency. And from here, the only direction is forward, with speed, with serenity, with precision, because you're not in a hurry. You're just done wasting time. And that difference, that's everything. You don't sprint in panic. You move in peace. You're not fueled by fear of failure. You're pulled by the gravity of your potential. The days of doubt are over. The seasons of silence have served their purpose. You've gone from potential energy to kinetic execution. And now you become a symbol, not of perfection, but of power aligned with purpose. You show the world what it looks like when someone commits without condition. When someone chooses mastery over mood, discipline over drama, legacy over likes. And in that choice, you win every single day. Because success is no longer a destination. It is now your default setting. And the world will have no choice but to adjust to your frequency. Not because you forced it, but because you became it fully, finally, forever.